Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Today we'll explore how massive changes on Google's horizon will affect addiction treatment marketing. I'm Julie Miller, Editor-in-Chief of Behavioral Healthcare. Today's program is sponsored by Dreamscape Marketing, LLC. Thank you to our sponsor and to everyone in our audience for giving us your time and attention today. Before we get started, we have a few details that we'd like to go over with you. You'll notice that each window on your screen can be moved by clicking and dragging, or you can enlarge and minimize by clicking on the icons in the top right corner of each window. Please use the Q&A area to the right of the slides to submit a question at any time. You don't have to wait until the end of the presentation. But if you can't see this area, just click on that red Q&A button. To download a copy of today's presentation, please click on the link in the Resources area in the lower left of your screen. If you have any technical issues during the program, just click the yellow Help button and we can help you troubleshoot the issue. Finally, you can also tweet during today's webinar using the blue Twitter icon at the bottom of your screen. Just click the Post and Authorize buttons to log into your Twitter account and begin sharing automatically at the event hashtag BHLiveWebinar. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today. Joining us, we have Dan Gemp, President and CEO of Dreamscape Marketing. Dan has been with the company since its founding in 2005. While at Dreamscape, Dan has created custom strategies for the effective implementation of internet and search marketing, as well as social media and mobile advertising campaigns. His focus is on efficient and proprietary search engine optimization techniques and return on investment through driven methodologies and metrics. Dan, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And with that, I'll turn the audience over to you.
Great, thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for attending today, in spite of my tacky Wizard of Oz themed title, AMP, Schema, and Pop-Ups, oh my. I'm also relatively proud of myself for using the right version of effect in my title instead of effect. So without further ado, what is my deal and what is going to be happening on Google? I own one of the larger digital agencies in addiction treatment. We've been working only in this space for 7 years out of our 11 years in existence, and we have seen all kinds of crazy things happen with Google itself changing. We have a unique status through the Google Partners All-Star program where we get our training at Google headquarters, and we have about a 6-month heads up on the changes that are coming. So some of these things have already happened that I'll be sharing today, and some of them are going to happen, and I will give you as much as I can in terms of nitty-gritty tactics on how to avoid penalties, leverage these technologies to your benefit, and of course, the simplest way to come back to this topic would be to Google the title. So we're basically asking Google today, why do you keep making these changes? How do they impact me? And why do they specifically impact addiction treatment more than other industries? And that is what hopefully I'll be bringing to light today for all of you. So what is AMP? How are pop-ups going to be affected on the internet in the coming months? What is this whole Penguin algorithm update all about? And what is it in the first place? So our agenda today to cover the Google, and the reason we're specifically covering Google is that they have more than 90% of the search volume on the internet. So Bing and Yahoo, for this conversation, do not matter. They're inconsequential, and they adjust their algorithms after Google takes the lead. So Google first is going to be a safe bet in your digital marketing. So I'm going to introduce these new technologies and the changes Google is making. We're going to explain what the hell penguins have to do with all of this. We're going to learn how to navigate the coming changes effectively. This is not guess and check. There are very specific tactical things you can deploy now that will keep you safe and high ranking in the coming months. Learning how to stay relevant during these changes as well as after these changes. You can future-proof your website a little bit. I'll share some ideas and thoughts on that. And hopefully you'll all be able to gain some tactics and insights to get ahead, right? It's not about just catching up to Google or avoiding a penalty. You can be a thought leader in the space, even if you're the smallest service provider or an independent clinical professional. You can deploy these same tactics, big or small. And then learning the online best practices and the opportunities that those present for lead generation, right? It's not about lying and tricking your consumers into coming to your treatment program. It's about leveraging Google's best technologies to your advantage. The best example I can give you is that very few of you would read a blog on a daily basis on a treatment center's website. But Google reads every single one of them every single day, looking for keywords that its customers are searching for. So the question we're trying to answer today is, what the hell, Google? Quit changing stuff. It's frustrating that you have to constantly make investment of time and money into your website being a living, breathing, organic thing. And what worked last year doesn't work this year. So as one of the most rapidly changing technologies in marketing, Google sets the standard and you have to play by their rules, good or bad. What is good is that Google is the single largest aggregator of data in your industry, and Google is the single largest source of admissions for addiction treatment. Over 83% of admissions in addiction treatment will do an organic or paid Google search prior to making a decision and admitting themselves into a treatment program. So, Google would love to not have to make changes. Google would love to stay the same and keep making billions and billions of dollars. Unfortunately, they have a mission, and Google's mission is to give their customer the fastest, most direct answer to their inquiries. So Google wants to become a magical crystal ball or a genie where you can simply say, hey Google, what's the meaning of life? And then Google can tell you the most relevant possible answer for you, and customize that over time based on what device you're on and where you're coming from. So the main problems, the main challenges, the main opportunities for you that we'll be discussing today. There will be no more pop-ups on the internet. So congratulations, high five yourselves. This will be coming to an end at the very end of this calendar year. Sites will now incur penalties for having pop-ups. Now you have to pay close attention to this because sure, they're going away, but wait a second, live chat is a pop-up. So if you have live chat on your website, you need to make sure that you're using a software platform that doesn't automatically trigger a JavaScript pop-up. Otherwise, your site gets penalized, and you'll drop in search rankings. Amp it up. Right? There's a whole lot faster way to go mobile. What has happened in the last calendar year that is driving most of Google's decision-making right now is that more internet usage is mobile than is not mobile. So more people are coming in specifically from smartphones, not really even tablets in any high volume. More people are accessing the internet via smartphone than via a computer. And so Google is saying, well, we make our money based on the ads that show up on these devices. So we had better have a whole lot more ads on mobile, right, to continue to grow and make money as a business. And AMP is a technology to create pared down, super fast loading mobile pages that should actually be considered more important than your main website on a computer. And we'll cover a lot more tactics on that. Something that is also happening in the next several months. This will happen most likely before the end of the year. Google is splitting into a completely separate index for mobile search results. So what you see on your computer for the exact same keyword or search term will show a different set of results than what you'll see on your smartphone. And I'll explain the reasoning for that and how to leverage that. Schemes of schema that prioritize relevancy over keywords. Keywords have actually been dead for a long time, several years. It used to simply be that if you told Google this word exists on my page of my website, it would rank higher for that. It's called a meta tag. That's no longer what Google uses in their ranking algorithm. They use a concept called schema. I'll be walking you through how that works, what it is, how you actually deploy it on your website. It is actually a specific technology, and you can code it into your website. We're also going to be talking about Penguin, okay? And there's a lot about Penguin that you need to understand, what it is, how it works, how it is evolving. But it was a series of manual updates that Google made that affected about a third of all search results over the last few years in an effort to block spammy lead generator style websites and any shady sites that were paying people for backlinks or producing duplicate content or stealing your content. So Penguin is the security guard of Google and the bouncer. And it is getting bigger and badder, and now it is artificially intelligent. It lives in real time on Google as of September. This is going to have tremendous impact on this industry because of the historical ethical challenges that many internet marketers have had in the space. And then local results. This is something where, for an industry that is, as a majority, seeking out-of-network benefits and residential admissions from out-of-state in many cases, Google's increase in the importance of local search results presents a unique challenge for the addiction treatment space. And it's going to either be better or show more search results for you, or less, or different, but it's going to be tough. And there are a series of different changes on local results that you'll need to be taking advantage of. So, America. America is a wonderful place. We will have a president in the next month or two, but the internet in the middle two-thirds of the country is still slow and is much less American than the internet on our coastlines, which is fueled by fiber optics and high-speed broadband everything. So Google's challenge is you're all making these beautiful websites that have videos on mobile and amazing layouts and super in-depth menus, and it takes 3 minutes for that to load on a 3G smartphone in the middle of Indiana. And that's a problem for Google because then no one's clicking on their paid ads, and that's how they make money. So they've actually created a whole new technology called Accelerated Mobile Pages, or AMP. And this is something that every single one of your web developers should be looking into. If they don't know how it works and how to do it, call me. But the picture on your screen, the left is a current website in its mobile version, and you'll see the little social media icons and search icons in the top left, and a gray main menu bar across the top. That's main menus are typically programmed in JavaScript or PHP, which is a file that takes up space when your website is loading. And then the site on the right is a pared down version of that. And it is deployed somewhat automatically, right, where this AMP technology that Google has created, that Google is providing as a how-to, it automatically takes out the JavaScript menu. It automatically takes out those social media icons because they are image files, and image files take a long time to load. So what all of this does is it speeds up the website. All of the good little nuggets of content are still there. None of your content goes away. The text is there. The text is more readable. You'll notice in the picture on the right, it is slightly larger and slightly more bold. And what it does is it enhances the user experience for your customers. So more than half of your potential patients are coming in from smartphones. And if they're in two-thirds of the U.S. that has slower internet, it's taking a long time for them to get to the information they need. So those of you who deploy accelerated mobile pages and take a mobile-first strategy in your digital marketing approach are going to find tremendous success over the coming year. Those of you who do not are absolutely going to be left in the dust, and you'll see pretty consistent declines in both your web traffic in total, specifically on mobile, and your ranking over the next 3 to 6 months. So there's no penalty attached to this, but the advantage of your competitors who deploy it is going to be permanent. Those who get there first do win this race. Their mobile pages will have been indexed in AMP format prior to yours, and Google credits you for that. So what are they actually measuring? How does Google measure the impact of mobile on you? Why is this unique in your industry? Unlike other elective medical, let's use senior living as the example, or plastic surgery or orthopedic surgery, those searches are all done locally. 99% of senior living and skilled nursing decisions are made within a 30-mile radius of where that person lives. Whereas addiction treatment, unfortunately, due to the high recidivism rate and relapse, Patients go to 7 different treatment centers in 7 different states, and this is very much a national market with national marketing campaigns fueling it, many from top dollar spenders. So Google's not giving you any special treatment. They want these local results to show up higher. They want these mobile results to rank better because that's how they make their money, and that's how most of their advertisers market. For those of you that have only one location and do take local business, this is going to be extremely advantageous to you. For those of you that are national marketers, national operators, you're going to have to change the game a little bit in your targeting. So what's been happening on Google, this increased from about 20% of all searches to about 40% of all searches in the last 1 year. Semantic search. Semantic simply means question and answer format, much like Jeopardy. You're asking Google a question, or you're asking Siri a question, and the search result is an answer to that question. That is the trend that is driving so much of this new technology. It's not about a keyword anymore. It's about answering a question. And the only way to do that is to find out what is relevant, what is the user's intent, what is the customer's intent when they ask that question. So to show you some of the results of this, you can look to Google Trends. There's a site, google.com/trends. You can type in any search term, and it will show you over the last several years whether that search volume has increased, decreased, stayed the same. So opiate abuse treatment center. This is an epidemic disease, completely recognized by the CDC. Heroin abuse in America is at an all-time high. But the number of search queries for any related term, heroin or opioid or opiate abuse treatment center, over the last 4 years has stayed the same. That group of keywords, that consumer question, has not increased in volume in 4 years. But competition sure has. There are a lot more providers and a lot more Google AdWords spenders pursuing that search term and the traffic that results. Luxury treatment center. All right, so this is where the general American public thinks that the only people that go to rehab are athletes and celebrities, and you know, the 1%ers, the wealthier folks that are struggling with addiction that live luxury lifestyles and want that to be continued in their treatment so they feel comfortable. That search term has been on its way down consistently since 2012. So those folks that are considering increasing their budgets on advertising efforts towards luxury treatment center, think again. What has been happening, if you typed in simply the search term drug rehab, Google, to enhance their local search results, is automatically adding the words near me to just about every search that does not have a geographic location attached to it. The concept is, if you're looking up best pizza place and they show you the best pizza place near you, it's much more likely that you will shop there and that is the answer to your question. But drug rehab near me is not up a little bit. It's not trending upwards. It is in an exponential growth curve, and this includes drug detox near me, detox center near me. Every possible variation on this concept is skyrocketing in search volume. The reason for that is that more people are on their phone. Google knows where they are, and they're seeking treatment. So they're not looking for these generic paid keywords. They're looking for, can I walk into that building across the street and find a treatment program? And whether you agree with that logic or not, that is the logic Google is deploying. That's why we're talking about Google today. It's not up to you anymore. You are simply among a gigantic pool of American consumers, and this is how most of them shop. And if you think about your own habits, this is actually how most of you shop using the internet. You just have to realize that 83% of your potential patients are on Google and are searching this way. So be prepared with your strategies. Mobile first searches from 2012 until now have increased by 80%. So this is not a scenario where you do a search on your computer and then later in the day you check out that same site on your phone. This is a scenario where 80% of searches are happening on a phone, and a much lower percentage of searches are first happening on a PC or a tablet. But again, think about your own habits. How often do you do searches? Are they from your phone? Or are they from your computer? So where is this leading us? Why am I building this case and explaining so much about what Google's trying to do? What it does is it adds importance to these technologies. Why should AMP matter? Why should accelerated mobile pages matter? It's because Google is splitting up with itself. Currently, Google has one index. Google is a piece of software called a metacrawler that automatically goes out and reads all of your websites, all of their mobile versions, all of their content, and checks what other sites are linking back to yours. That is what Google is. By the end of this year, Google will actually be two completely separate indexes. This is a global game changer. There will be a mobile search index and a desktop search index, and the two will not be related in any way. Completely separate. Google will be operating its advertising platforms in much the same way. Still through AdWords, but with separate targeting, much more accurate data on mobile. And the goal here is for you to follow in suit. You need to define your digital marketing strategy as mobile first. And the second most important element to consider here is freshness first. If you're writing a great piece of content and only posting it to your desktop site and it's not getting out to your mobile site, that's going to hurt you. So you need to create great, relevant, fresh content on an ongoing basis, specifically formatted for mobile first, and then make sure it's compliant and works on other devices. So wait a minute, what does all this mean? If consumers are going to see different search results based on what device is in their hand, how can I even target them? Unfortunately, the ways you've been targeting them for years are completely invasive and annoying anyway. So, on this slide, I'm saying before you read this slide, please look at an annoying pop-up ad. On your smartphone, where most of your patients are coming from, it is the most annoying thing in the world to get a pop-up ad, and you've probably all experienced it in some fashion. Oftentimes, it's not formatted to your screen size. Oftentimes, you're not able to see the content you are looking for behind the ad, and the little X to close the ad is so tiny that if you have fat thumb syndrome like I have, your thumbs are too big to hit the darn X and close the ad. So Google will now be penalizing advertisers for running annoying pop-up ads. That does include a contact form that loads while your site loads. That does include live chat that automatically deploys when your site loads. It doesn't mean you can't have live chat or a contact form. It means that you now need to have specific buttons that would open those things. If you all remember Flash websites, those cool-looking animated sites that were not responsive and would not work on cell phones and all that fun stuff, Steve Jobs effectively killed that technology. And it's because of this exact same scenario. It doesn't work on all devices. It's not really that user-friendly. It's not really that searchable. And you're killing the user experience. Think about your customers. Put yourself in their position. Those are struggling with addiction. Those that are emotionally distraught because a loved one is struggling with addiction. And they're looking to have their fear alleviated. They're shopping for a comfortable place for themselves or a loved one to get well. And they're looking to see if you're a respectful organization that they should consider sending a family member to or attending themselves. Pop-up ads are rude and annoying. And if you walked into your doctor's office and the office manager walked out and held a giant cardboard sign in your face that said to buy a certain pharmaceutical, you'd probably leave. It's that level of rudeness that these pop-up ads are sharing to your prospective customers. Schema. So much like accelerated mobile pages, AMP pages are a specific technology that you can deploy on your website. It is a shift in organic SEO. You can rank better if you have them. It is a mobile-first strategy, and quite frankly, you have to do it in the near term to stay competitive. Schema is very much the same. It is a specific technology. It used to be that you could program keywords into your site using what are called meta tags, and they would say, hey, Google, why don't you look at my site for the keyword Florida Rehab Center? And you know what? FL Rehab Center. And you know what? Tampa Rehab Center. The technology now is much more evolved than that. Google knows, because of this schema structure, which is the same way the human brain functions, right? You compartmentalize knowledge. Numbers and letters are in one section. Words and image recall are in another section. Learned habits are in another section. So what Google is doing is they compartmentalize these searches. And the first instance of this came out about 6 years ago. Sounds like a long time, but that was when Google first started completing your search query for you. My joke here is, I love it when Google completes my sentences. So what Google's technology is doing, they've deployed a simple artificial intelligence platform called RankBrain. And what RankBrain does is it says, okay, well, so many people are searching for sports car in relation to these other terms, shiny, fast, expensive, small, that any time someone searches for any of these things, they must be looking for information on sports cars. So imagine a customer searching for symptoms. This is the WebMD kind of a concept, right? I have a stuffy nose. I must have the flu. I should go see a doctor. That is what schema does. It connects those three thoughts. For you, what it means is that a customer who is searching for something like, do I need to see a doctor for cotton fever? That actually is someone who should consider seeking treatment, right? That is a symptom of injection from heroin abuse. In that scenario, Google sees that schema relates the concept of cotton fever to the concept of heroin abuse to the concept of addiction treatment. So you need to be producing content that contains all of those thoughts, and you need to deploy schema markup on your website, which is done a very specific way. I'll show you one way to do it now, so that your site and all of its content shows up in a larger volume of search results because it's related to more subjects, more topics. So the simplest way for you to deploy schema today is to install Google Search Console on your website. It is free. It is a complement to Google Analytics, and it tracks everything that Google looks for in your website, and it notifies you if there are errors, if there are challenges reading the content, if there are other related or unrelated issues. So once you've installed Google Search Console, which is pretty easy to do, you can just look up a YouTube video on how to install Google Search Console. For years it has been called Google Webmaster Tools, and they renamed it this year. But basically, there's a tool in there under Search Appearance called Data Highlighter. Data Highlighter does exactly what you think it might do. You can use that tool and click and drag it on certain content on your website to highlight that data, such as your address, such as your primary treatment program. If you treat adolescent men opioid abuse, you would highlight that information, those sets of keywords and related statistics. And what that does, that tool automatically will then generate schema code for that information. It tells Google, hey, when you're reading this website, you'd better give some extra credit to these 5 things. Be very cautious not to overuse that tool. It would be pretty useless if you highlighted 99% of your content, and Google would then tag your site as useless. But if you're located in Florida and you highlight your address and it has Florida or a Florida zip code in it, you will rank higher in search results relatively immediate. It'll take a few days for Google to crawl your site again, but you will notice significant impact on your rankings and local search results simply because you're using schema and several of your competitors are not. Now, what does it look like? Can you see schema? Can you see an accelerated mobile page? Yes, you can. An accelerated mobile page, if you're on your phone and you look at your search results, there will be a little gray box next to the search result with a lightning bolt on it. That lightning bolt means it's an accelerated mobile page and it will load quickly for you. Schema looks like our screen here. If you do a Google search for things to do in Philadelphia, All kinds of local search results show up over on the right-hand side. All kinds of local images for businesses in the Philadelphia Zoo and Pat's Cheesesteaks and the Liberty Bell. They all pop up top. And the simple technology here is, if you're in Philadelphia and you ask Google, what's the weather, it should be able to tell you what the weather is in Philadelphia and not ask you to have to specify where you are. Google knows where you are. If you have an Android phone, Google knows when you're sleeping because your phone screen goes black for several hours at a time. But on average, you check your phone every 2.5 minutes. So realize that they know your location, they know if you're awake or asleep, and they're actually trying to give you better data. They're trying to give you a better answer to your questions with this schema technology. So hopefully you're all familiar with this and you've seen this in practice already. This technology has already been deployed. We've been building it into client sites for about 8 months now. So this is something where if you haven't really looked into it or dug into it further, now is the time you stand to lose ground potentially by not doing it. All right, let's talk about the penguins. Google has a code word for everything. Every time they're releasing an update, they give it a code name so people can't figure out what it does before it's deployed. Their security algorithm is hilariously called Penguin. The big bad bouncer of Google is a penguin. So looking at your screen here, Penguin was meant to defeat and destroy any kind of shady, corner cutting, and cheating that SEO experts would try to leverage. So there are vulnerabilities in Google. If you just have to have a keyword show up on your site 1,000 times to rank #1, well, why don't I just write that keyword 1,000 times over and over and over again, right? So Penguin is a piece of software in Google's algorithm that is now real time. They released an annual update manually in 2012, 2013, 2014. It is now bigger and badder and essentially artificially intelligent. And it looks for linking schemes, right? If 10 of you have the exact same sites all linking to your site, Penguin is going to see that and consider that a linking scheme where you paid people for those links. Keyword stuffing, using a word over and over and over again. It's annoying to readers. You hate it, I hate it, but Google is now reading for that. They'll look, okay, every 16th word is the same keyword in a noticeable pattern. I'm just not even going to count this page. So you might not get a penalty, but all of that content you've been writing might count for 0. It won't help your rank. It doesn't help your marketing because no one can find it and read it. There is such a thing as over-optimization, right? Trying to get one page of your site ranking for so many different keywords, getting 100 inbound links to one page on your site and 0 to the rest of your site. These are things that Google is looking for because those are the things that can be manipulated by SEO experts. Those are things that can be manipulated by paying off other advertisers or even competitors to link to your site. And then what Penguin has that is unique is, similar to Schema, a way to check relevancy. So if you have a whole bunch of inbound links from car dealerships, Penguin is going to be demoting your site, whereas if it has a whole bunch of inbound links from Psychology Today and AddictionPro.com and BehavioralHealth.net, if these are the sites that are linking back to yours, that is super relevant content to addiction treatment, and Penguin will make sure that you're safe and ranking well. So be forewarned, this is not something that is coming. This is something that Google has basically, they took their security penguin off the leash and set it loose in the yard, and it will protect Google, and it will take shady practitioners out of the game altogether. Now, what else is happening at the same time? Google is playing possum. There is a lesser-known update that was not well advertised on September 1st, and the goal is to diversify local search results and prevent spam from ranking. There are players in this industry that have purchased P.O. boxes in every major city in every state and are trying to rank in all local search results. That is against Google's bylaws, and they're aware of it, and they are working to penalize that. They're also working to say, well, wait a minute. Just because somebody's company is 30 seconds outside of city limits doesn't mean they shouldn't show up in local search results. So if you're out in the suburbs because you have a large residential property and a giant treatment center, doesn't mean you should be penalized or not count as local to a major metropolitan market. So that's what Google is fixing with this Possum update. They're saying, you know what, let's cast this net a little bit wider to include people out in the suburbs. You can still rank locally. And let's make sure that these people that are buying P.O. boxes and defrauding the system are not showing up. It doesn't help Google because they can't make money if their search results, as much money, if their search results are all manipulated and spammy, like Bing and Yahoo, to be honest. And the other attempt here is to filter these results based on addresses and affiliations. If you're on Yellow Pages, if you're a member of NAATP, if you have these affiliations and other sites that do rank well linked to you, you'll actually rank better in local search results because your credibility is coming from a larger level, a larger market level. So think about your affiliations. Think about whether you're involved in the local community, whether you've gotten any local press, whether you've used Schema to highlight your address. These are the things that will help you to take advantage of Possum as an update. Let's talk about AdWords. You guys set a new record this year. You are now the single largest spender in the world on Google AdWords. And if you think about that, it's pretty ridiculous. It means that you're willing to spend $7,000 to $10,000 to obtain an out-of-network admission. And that's an average. That's not the norm, but that is an average we have seen among our own clients, among some of the national providers. And it does correlate to market share. The reason people are willing to spend that amount is if they get that admission and you do not, they can still grow and you cannot. So tremendously more treatment centers are coming into the business. Several $1 billion will be coming into the industry this year from private equity. The estimates are anywhere from $2 to $4 billion. Okay? There is one company that has $256 million that is planning to take over a large portion of America. There are others that went public last year that most of you are familiar with that are well-funded and are able to advertise at this level. So what happened on paid search? What changed? What do you need to do to adjust to that? Well, first and foremost, the side ads went away. If you were on a desktop and you did a search, the top 3 results would be paid ads, and over on the right-hand side would be a whole lot more paid ads. Well, Google got rid of those because most of their traffic is coming from a smartphone device now, right? And on a smartphone screen, you can't even see the ads on the right-hand side. So what they did is they said, let's add a 4th ad, paid ad, to the top section there. And then down below the organic search results, let's have another block of 4 paid ads. And it has changed the pricing tremendously. Google is an auction-based platform. So you all are willing to spend more money for your ad to be in the top 4 than you were previously. And now you spend more money per visit than mesothelioma litigation. There are more extensions. So Google is giving you technology so an ad is not just a title and a block of text anymore. There are clickable links to up to 3 specific pages of your site. So things like our men's program, our women's program, what we cost. You can advertise specific pages. Call extensions. Google has call tracking technology now that can integrate with your systems and your reporting. There's actually been an increase in integration. So if you use Salesforce as your CRM or even a few other similar platforms, it can automatically plug into AdWords now so that whenever someone clicks on your ad or fills out a form or calls you from your ad, it automatically creates a new record or is applied to an existing record in your CRM system. So those of you folks that are admissions experts, do that integration. It's awesome. What's interesting about Google is that they are actually a psychology organization. They are a behavioral health organization as much or more so than any of you. They're looking at consumer psychology. What are we all looking for as average American consumers? How do we ask our questions? How do we decide on what to click for our answers? So when they deploy these new technologies, don't sit and wait. Don't think maybe this is something I should look at down the road. Realize that these are real-time changes that Google is making to better serve your ads and better serve their customers. And there are also an increase in options for mobile-friendly pages using AMP technology, mobile-friendly menus, and sitemaps. Many of you are familiar with HTML sitemaps, but you may not know that you can submit both an HTML sitemap and an XML sitemap, and that will assure you that Google is seeing every single piece of content on your website. Google, why are you making my life so hard? You know, why Google? Why? Google has to do this, all right? It's because Americans are searching for healthcare in different ways, using different technologies. Google has fully gone mobile first, and so should you. This is a big deal. This has happened this year. These other updates I'm sharing with you are happening this year. In a study done of almost 12,000 Google users, ages 18 to 49, the average user spent 170 minutes a day on their smartphone and only 120 minutes on a PC. And this does not include those of us who are web geeks and desk jockeys, and I spend 12 hours a day on my computer. This is, this is your market. And a lot of these folks are struggling with addiction, and 1 in 6 of them has a family member who is. So looking at this device usage on an average day, 80% of people are using a smartphone, 67% use a computer, and only 16% use a tablet on any given day. Again, I would say to think to your own consumer habits, and you're probably somewhere within that range. Just a couple more slides here, and we'll be wrapping up in a few minutes. But answering this question, if you're a marketer for your organization, if you're an executive and you're trying to figure out how to navigate this crazy expensive digital frontier here, you're asking yourself the question, how the heck does this help my treatment center to drive admissions? How can you invest time and money in this and capitalize on it? And luckily there is an answer here. The first answer I've been saying this whole time, to go mobile first in your strategy. But that doesn't just mean build a pretty mobile site or go make an app. What it means is that you can take your marketing assets, anything that you might have as a PDF or as a video or as an image file, and you can compress those files to be smaller file sizes to fit the average screen size of a mobile device. And you've got to realize that, yeah, 80% of people are using a phone more than a computer, but 40% of that same user group we just talked about, 12,000 people, only used their smartphones. There was a SAMHSA.gov study done among those admitting themselves into treatment programs. The average admission, the person owned an iPhone 5 or newer, and this was about a year ago, and the average person only owned an iPhone when you asked them about technology. They did not have a laptop. They may have sold it to obtain drugs. They may have had financial challenges, but everyone had a smartphone. Family members are always willing to pay for that phone bill as a lifeline to their loved one. So again, think about your market. Make sure that your marketing assets and materials that are compelling and show comfort and alleviate fear and demonstrate your respect and your credentials are mobile friendly. You need great images, not just okay images. Digital cameras are awesome now. Smartphone cameras are awesome now. You have no excuse not to have amazing photography and amazing video that is mobile friendly. 3D tours. Call me if you want to schedule a free one. We host it, but you can have virtual tours, 3D, augmented reality, where you can walk through your facility like in a video game and see the group therapy room and see the bedroom you might be living in and see some of the staff smiling and waving hello. Think about your accreditations, your affiliations, the standards you have in place. Some of those badges and those images on your websites are actually so large that they don't show up on mobile. They go off the screen, or they're blurry or pixelated. And then realize that if someone's reading your staff credentials or your bio on a smartphone, they don't want to have to read so many words. So maybe switch that to a bulleted format, switch those staff credentials to something that's just easier to digest. And if you're publishing outcomes data, this is going to be an increasing trend in the addiction treatment space over the next few years. There's the ASAM criteria in place. There are a lot of organizations that are publishing their own standards like NAATP. But the goal here is to begin publishing your outcomes data in a mobile-friendly format, right? So don't just create gigantic PDFs and images and hope that that's sufficient. If you're going to use this in your marketing, go mobile first. And then what can you do immediate term? How can you capture admissions from this? If you get these things done, if you deploy schema, if you deploy AMP pages, if you adapt your local search results for Penguin and Possum, what you're going to find is that as an early adopter, you will be rewarded. You will gain market share and gain ground on your competitors. And what you'll find is that you'll stay there. So by deploying these things first, Google will reward you permanently, semi-permanently. You'll get better targeting overall for your consumers, which is going to translate to market share. You're going to be able to better hold any position you have in the local market. And you're going to be able to communicate to 65% of your prospects who are on smartphones next year, right? If you're not there now, if you're not leading in the mobile space, someone else is. And realize that some better revisions to your keyword strategy. People search in question and answer format more often on their phones with tools like Siri. And people type in shorter inquiries on their smartphones than they would on a computer. So you might want to change some of your AdWords bidding strategies, especially as Google deploys their new mobile-only index and desktop-only index. Let's see here. The market challenges and the changes online. There's a lot of challenges for you. Again, you are more of a national market, a national healthcare service provider because of how insurance pays currently. And this is the auto network component. But Google AdWords is extremely expensive. It has increased in cost for addiction treatment-related keywords 12% a year for 5 years in a row, more than doubling the cost. So an average click that used to be $15 is now more than $30 per click. And it's a really fast way to burn budget and lose efficiency of spend. So be as targeted as you can in your campaigns. Realize that there are some very large, very well-funded competitors entering the space. So if you can't beat them, you don't necessarily have to outspend them. You might need to switch your strategy from desktop to mobile, or from paid search more heavily towards organic search and content marketing, where you're writing blog articles, PDFs, getting involved in some university studies, and publishing them on your site. Just a few ideas. And then realize that there is new multimedia technology that is already better compressed than any of your old assets, right? Even a digital camera, right, at higher resolution, today's camera models will still create a smaller file size than yesterday's camera models. These immersive VR 360 tours, you may have seen commercials for buy an Android phone, get a free virtual reality headset. These are no longer expensive to produce. We've done a lot of them, and high-resolution photography can now be done with your own smartphone. Go ahead and buy a small tripod from Best Buy, and you're good to go for photo shoot. So it might make sense to replace some of the assets you already have just because these newer technologies are more readily available, create smaller file sizes, and are already mobile-friendly, or already integrate with platforms like YouTube that are already mobile-friendly. And realize that you're subject to HIPAA standards and you're subject to Google's bylaws. Google does not allow for retargeting and remarketing in this industry, in addiction treatment. What that is when you go to a website and that company's advertisement follows you around the internet as a banner ad for the next 6 months. You'll see that car companies do that. You'll see that retail goods are like that. If you went and searched heroin treatment program today and you're a big-time attorney, and tomorrow you're making a big client presentation, and an ad pops up that says, still looking for that heroin treatment there, Steve? That's going to be a problem that you're probably going to consider Google liable for. So they make their bylaws on purpose, and they are working to tie up loose ends. They want their customers to have a very smooth experience in searching for answers and to get an answer to their question as fast as possible. This also means that any directories and high-ranking platforms will be decreasing in rank over the next 2 years. Because Google wants to connect a user directly to the content that answers their question, not to a middleman. So if you're spending on these large platforms, that's fine for now, for directories and such, but long term you're going to need to have your own strategy as well. They will never go away, but they may decrease in market share. So you can aim for the right mix of organic and paid budget as you're planning for next year. You can shift towards this mobile-first strategy. What you should do to make sure that's worthwhile is track your desktop and mobile efforts separately. You can do that in Google Analytics for free. You can create new assets that fuel entire campaigns, right? So you don't have to necessarily say, let's go write 600 pages of content. You can make a cool 6-part video series that's mobile-friendly and send out emails about it to alumni and professional colleagues and referral sources. You can make infographics that would be somewhat timeless. You can create tours of your facilities, and you can interview your clinical staff. So all of these things are not text-heavy. They would be very well received on a smartphone, and there are formats for them that load quickly and are user-friendly. So hopefully I've addressed most of your concerns here. We do have some time. We've got about 10 minutes for questions here. But ideally, we've answered some of these questions. What are these new technologies and changes to Google? Learn how to navigate these changes, learn how to stay relevant, and hopefully you got some new tactics and insights on how to leverage these things towards lead generation. So thank you all again for the time. I appreciate it, and I believe the Vendome team has a few more thoughts for you.
Great, thanks Dan, really good information. Just as a reminder, you can use that Q&A widget below the slides on your screen to submit a question at any time, and we do have quite a few that have come in. So Dan, on one of your recent slides, you had mentioned the Google survey that showed 80% of the target market was using a smartphone. What if a treatment center wanted to find out what share of their own users are using mobile devices versus computers? Is there a way to figure out what that percentage is?
Yes, there is. And if you have Google Analytics installed on your website, you can simply go to the audience breakdown, and there is an option for mobile, and it will tell you how much of your traffic is coming from a mobile device. If any of you have challenges with that, my email address is on the screen. I am more than happy to help as a courtesy to make sure you can see where you guys stand. And that will be changing over the next few months. So do your best to segment that mobile traffic now.
Okay, great. And someone in our audience today asks, what if you have a treatment center that is outside of the United States but primarily have a U.S. customer base? Is there anything in Google that would pay attention to whether you're in Canada or the United States or somewhere else?
Great question. We have worked internationally with clients in Canada and South America. It is becoming increasingly difficult. You will have to spend more money on the paid advertising solutions because they don't require that you be local. But you're going to want to make sure that you create content that includes those local geographies in the content itself. So a Canada treatment center that provides help for Florida residents. You may need to shift your content strategy to include those target markets. You'll also find that cell phone usage is higher in international markets. So going mobile is even more important in Europe and in Canada than it is in the U.S.
Okay, great. And early on, you were talking about SEO and you were talking about keywords, and you seem to say that keywords weren't really all that important anymore. In the past, we've always tried to force a lot of keywords into content. Is there anything we have to do to backpedal? Should we worry about the keywords that are already existing all over our site based on that old philosophy, or can we just leave them where they're at?
You should be able to leave them where they're at, unless you were taking a specifically overzealous approach with that and including the keyword every 3 words or something. It's not that they don't exist anymore. It's simply that Google is not searching your site just for a keyword. It is searching your site for relevant information. So leave that content up. You might want to update some of it or link it out to your newer pages, and Google will be able to see that you're instructing it to go from that old keyword-focused content to something new.
Okay, great. And does Google actually look for photos? Is that something that Google can tell the difference between, a photo or a slideshow or a virtual tour? And does it rank each of those elements differently?
Oh, yeah. So video ranked extremely well. That is because Google owns YouTube, They did that on purpose. They are planning to run a whole lot more video ads on a paid basis. YouTube is actually the third most popular search engine on the planet. The first is Google. YouTube is third. So as it increases in popularity, video matters the most. Images are completely searchable. And when you add an image to your site, there's a small amount of code you can add called an alt tag. And it tells Google what the title of that image is and what it's relevant to. So essentially, you can put keywords on an image, and Google will search every single image on your site and index them accordingly.
Okay, great. And you had mentioned how some local providers will now have some advantages, that Google has the ability to look more at the local providers for things in your area. Is that based on zip code? Is that based on the actual name of the city that you're in or the state that you're in? How granular does that local search really get?
Sure. So it's actually based on two variables. One, where is the person performing the search located? So if you live in Florida and you search for best rehab center, it is going to show you the results for best rehab center Florida. So one is where the user is that is performing the search. The second, the tactics you can deploy for yourselves, it will be easier to rank in local search results. But if you don't get your traffic, if you don't get your admissions locally, it's going to be a challenge for you to rank higher in other markets. So generally speaking, if you can take in-network benefits, if you can take out-of-network payers from within your state, that's fantastic news for you. If that is not your circumstance, if that's not your situation, you're going to find it a little bit more difficult to rank at the top of search results for other markets, for other cities and locations.
Okay, great. And someone in our audience asks, since there are now 2 indexes, will Google be charging differently for the additional search process using 2 indexes?
No, the costs will stay about the same. Mobile used to be cheaper because there'd be a lot more display ads and banner ads on mobile. Things like apps and games and such can all run ads. But it's the cost points are going to be about the same as they are now. The opportunity is a little bit more on the organic side and in the mobile text ads.
Okay, great. And let's wrap up with one real quick one. Is there a way to report bad practices to Google, or does Penguin already know about them all?
We are a Google partner. We actually have a back office team at Google that supports our efforts. So again, the email address on my screen, dgemp@dreamscapemail.com. Report them to me. I will be the snitch, and they absolutely do care and will take manual action. I'm happy to let you know if your specific circumstance, is a trademark infringement or something like that or not. But Google does care, and they do take manual submissions. The other answer I can offer you is on the paid search side. If any of you are managing your own campaigns, I am happy to give you direct access to a back office team at Google. That's a courtesy we provide, and they would be happy to take a look at your campaigns or competitors and let you know if someone is spending on your name or something like that.
Good to know. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for questions today, but I do want to thank Dan Gemp once again for a great presentation. I would also like to thank our sponsor, Dreamscape, for making today's program possible. Finally, thank you to everyone in our audience for participating today. We do hope you'll join us again in the future for another behavioral healthcare webinar. This concludes today's presentation.
Thank you all very much.